very interesting what you said about the interest in the mind. And can you speak more about the mind? Like, what is the mind? What is the purpose of the mind? How do you understand this mind?
Well, of course, I mean, that is a whole other thing in itself. But normally, right, you start by learning how to cultivate the ability to be attentive and to be conscious of what's going on. So normally in all Buddhist schools, you start with the being aware of the breath. It's not a pranayama. It's just you breathe in, you breathe out. You know you're breathing in, breathing out. I mean, normally we all breathe all the time, but we're not aware of that, right? But if we do give our attention to the breath, then first of all, since we cannot breathe in the past or in the future, we only breathe now, it brings the attention into the present moment. But at the same time, as we ignore all the background noise, rather like a television which is on, but we're reading a book and we ignore it, the mind begins to quieten down. And at the same time, our ability to observe, to be aware, to be mindful gets stronger. When our ability to really focus in a very relaxed way, but clear way on the breath and not get swept away by all our thinking, when that is stabilized, then we turn the attention onto the thinking itself. And the first thing we do is, like, we have a thought stream, right? We're endlessly thinking. We're swimming in an ocean of thinking. And normally we're swept along by that thinking. We are our thoughts and we believe our thoughts. So now it's like a river running. Normally we are swept along by the river. Now we're sitting on the banks. We're just observing the thoughts. We're not judging them. We're not trying to stop them. Good thoughts, bad thoughts, just thoughts. And so first we begin to learn how to observe the mind. Right? Then when we learn how to observe the mind, then we start questioning the mind. What is a thought? Where does it come from? Where does it go to? What is it? What does it look like? Then what is that is thinking? And so slowly we begin to look at the thoughts, and we see that all the thoughts that we think are so solid and real and true because I'm thinking it, they're just bubbles. I mean, moment to moment to moment to moment to moment, right? You think one thought and it's gone, it's something, another thought come up. They're therefore like a bubble. You blow it and it's all shiny and it looks so real, but you go click and it's empty. And all our thoughts are like that. They're empty. They're not real. They're not true. They're not solid. They're not enduring. They're just moment to moment impulses, mental impulses, just like this. And who is observing that? So the first level is to get this feeling of a witness that is observing the thoughts, right? So there's the subject and the object. But that is still dualistic, right? Who is this subject? But it acts as a bridge to getting back into that level, as we were talking just now, of this primordial awareness, which is beyond that duality of subject and object. It's beyond duality. And we see there is no self there. There is just pure, clear awareness, which connects us with all beings, connects us with all nature. We're all very deeply interconnected at our most profound level. And that's what we're trying to get to. So when we recognize that, it's like suddenly everything becomes so clear, so vivid, so vast, and very, very vivid. It's not something which is like somnolent or spaced out, even though it's compared to space, because you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't grasp it and say, this is mine. But it's all within us, and that's our true nature, which has nothing to do with the peripheral conditioned nature which we identify with. And that's our tragedy, isn't it? I mean, all great spiritual paths recognize our big problem is we identify with all the wrong things. And we don't recognize our true nature. And that's what we've got to wake up to. And once we glimpse it, to work to stabilize it. My Lama said that when you recognize the nature of the mind, then you start to meditate. Before that, we're just, trying to get the conditions together. And when you glimpse it, then you say, I mean, they were just seeing without the seer. And then to stabilize that realization, that's the real path. So in the end, it's all about mind and recognizing our true nature, which in Mahayana Buddhism is called Buddha nature. But the problem with that is it sounds like I'm my Buddha nature, your Buddha nature, his Buddha nature, but it's not like that. Therefore, it's also compared to the sky, to space, because you can't delineate it and say, this is my space. Space is just space and all pervading everywhere. But it's covered up by clouds, like in Indian monsoon. So you only see the clouds, our conditional mind. You don't see that the clouds come from the sky. So we always have that primordial awareness, but we don't recognize it. It's not like we have to get it from somewhere. It's who we are, but we don't see it. This is our tragedy. But it's also considered to be empty because you can't grasp it, you can't see it. But at the same time, luminous and clarity. It's very clear, luminous cognizance. It's this knowing quality of the mind, which we all have, but we don't recognize it. So that's what we're trying to get back to that ultimate nature, which we all possess, but which normally we are totally ignorant of. So we suffer because we identify with the ego, and the ego by its very nature is ignorant. I mean, we have to work with the ego while we've got it and make a happy little ego. But then the ego will walk the path, right? If you have a well-balanced sense of self, that is what we start with for walking the path towards going beyond the self. So there are all these meditations for making the mind calm, for giving us loving kindness and compassion and so forth. That's to make our sense of identity healthy and well-balanced so that it is able to walk the spiritual path towards its own dissolution.